Did you know that the Lion King remake was built inside a virtual reality game world made to look like the popular environments from the classic animated Lion King? The filmmakers used VR headsets to check the in-world locations and line up the shots they wanted, then program the characters to enact the scenes and record the script. Once everything was set up, they filmed every scene and sent it off to visual effects to complete for the big screen. So much for a live-action remake. The 2019 remake of The Lion King had all the makings of a blockbuster, a star-studded cast, state-of-the-art technology, and a beloved story to draw from. Yet, despite its record-breaking box office numbers of $1.657 billion, many fans and critics walked away feeling like something was missing. But before we dive into the 7 reasons that derailed this Disney classic, a quick ask that if you're new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, take a second to subscribe now so you don't miss these deep dive videos. Now, let's discover what went wrong in this visually brilliant reboot. Reason number 1, the Uncanny Valley. The decision to create a hyper-realistic portrayal of the African savanna was both the film's most impressive achievement and its greatest shortcoming.
Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance.
The 2019 Lion King dazzled audiences with visuals that bordered on photorealism, delivering breathtaking landscapes and lifelike depictions of animals. However, this very commitment to realism inadvertently undermined one of the most critical aspects of the original story, the emotional resonance. In the 1994 animated classic, the filmmakers deliberately leaned into anthropomorphism, imbuing the characters with human-like traits and expressions. The 2019 remake, by contrast, sacrificed the expressiveness in favor of realism. The lions, hyenas, and other animals look stunningly real, but their rigid animal faces make emotional moments feel hollow. Take, for example, one of the most pivotal moments in the film, Mufasa's death. In the original, Simba's reaction to his father's death is heart-wrenching. His eyes are wide and brimming with tears, his trembling expression radiates grief and confusion, and his desperate cries for help amplify the scene's emotional weight. This sequence remains one of the most memorable in Disney's history precisely because of how it makes the audience feel Simba's pain. In the remake, however, the same scene plays out in a way that feels muted. While Simba's body language remains intact, his face is unable to match the raw emotion that we're supposed to be feeling in this scene. If we didn't have an original Lion King, I'm sure it would be fine, but we've got the original, so we know how hard it can hit. The disconnect is not limited to Mufasa's death. Throughout the remake, scenes that once brimmed with emotion felt curiously flat. By prioritizing realism over expressiveness, the 2019 Lion King inadvertently created a barrier between the audience and the story. While the original thrived on its ability to make viewers laugh, cry, and cheer with the characters, the remake struggles to elicit the same emotional response. Reason number 2, no voice actors. When Disney announced the star-studded voice cast for the 2019 Lion King remake, the anticipation was palpable. Donald Glover, Beyoncé, and Chiwetel Ejiofor are all immensely talented in their own right, and the idea of them lending their voices to such beloved characters sounded like a recipe for success. But the final product left many feeling underwhelmed. While the cast names undoubtedly drew audiences to theaters, their performances lacked the energy, emotional depth, and connection to the characters that made the 1994 original so unforgettable. The challenge began with Donald Glover's Simba, a character who should be the emotional and narrative center of the story. Glover's performance, while serviceable, felt oddly detached, lacking the enthusiasm and charisma that a hero like Simba demands. Simba's arc, from carefree cub to reluctant exile to rightful king, is one of the most compelling aspects of The Lion King. Yet in the remake, Glover's subdued delivery flattened Simba's emotional highs and lows, making key moments, like his confrontation with Scar, feel uninspired and kind of dull. Beyoncé's portrayal of Nala was another missed opportunity. Beyoncé brought star power to the role, but her vocal performance often felt disconnected from the character. While her delivery in certain moments, such as her rallying cry to Simba to return home, carried a sense of determination, much of her performance lacked the nuance needed to make Nala feel fully realized. Voice acting requires a different skill set from live-action performance. Without physical expressions to enhance delivery, actors have to be trained to rely entirely on vocal inflection and emphasis to get the message across. While Donald Glover and Beyoncé are talented performers, their performances in The Lion King lack the dynamic energy that traditional voice acting demands. In the end, the cast's inability to fully bridge the gap between performance and animation contributed to the remake's inability to recapture the magic of the 1994 charismatic original. Reason number 3. Scar's lost charisma. And speaking of charisma, when it comes to iconic Disney villains, Scar from the original Lion King stands out as one of the most memorable. His mix of theatrical flair, sharp wit, and sinister cunning made him a character audiences just love to hate. Unfortunately, the remake stripped much of that charisma away, opting instead for a more grounded and brooding interpretation of the character.
Temper. I wouldn't dream of challenging you.
I wouldn't dream of challenging you again.
While this approach adds a layer of realism, it also sacrificed the nuance and complexity that made Scar such an unforgettable antagonist. Ejiofor's Scar leaned into bitterness and realism, losing the larger-than-life villainous persona that made him fun and compelling. Jeremy Irons' Scar in the original film delivered every line with a sly, almost gleeful malice, making Scar as entertaining as he was dangerous. Lines like, "I'm surrounded by idiots," or his chilling, "Long live the king," during Mufasa's death scene were dripping with disdain and humor and charisma, making them instantly iconic. By contrast, Ejiofor's Scar, while undeniably more intimidating, felt one note. This shift in tone made Scar less engaging as a villain, as his darker interpretation failed to capture the twisted delight that Jeremy Irons brought to the original role. He's evil, and he loves it. Scar's charisma was not just a bonus to the original film, it was an essential part of why he remains one of Disney's greatest villains. By losing that, the remake of The Lion King lost one of its most compelling elements. And that brings us to the next problem. Reason number 4. The comedy fell flat. One of the standout features of the original Lion King was its perfect balance of drama and comedy. At the heart of this delicate balance were Timon and Pumbaa, the carefree duo whose antics provided the film with a sense of lightheartedness and charm.
What do we got here? Jeez, it's a lion! Run, Pumbaa, move it!
All right, let me see what we're dealing with here. It's a lion! Run for your life, Pumbaa!
Their humor was cleverly written, their chemistry was undeniable, and their comedic timing helped to offset the weightier themes of death, betrayal, and responsibility. However, in the remake, while Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen's portrayals had moments of brilliance, the humor as a whole often fell flat, struggling to live up to the original's comedic legacy. Timon, now rendered with National Geographic levels of detail, and Pumbaa, an equally realistic warthog, lacked the visual absurdity that made their antics endearing in the first place. Billy Eichner's Timon and Seth Rogen's Pumbaa did manage to capture some of the original chemistry, particularly in their banter. Eichner's signature sharp wit brought a modern edge to Timon, and Rogen's easygoing charm made a believable lazy Pumbaa. However, their humor often felt overstated, relying way too much on their improvisational style. In the 1994 film, the hula gag was not only hilarious, but also perfectly encapsulated Timon and Pumbaa's offbeat, well-scripted style. Timon and Pumbaa are still entertaining, but they didn't bring that same magic to the story, leaving the film's comedy feeling unbalanced and at times really out of place. Reason number 5. Music that missed the mark. The music of the original Lion King was not some highlight, it was the heartbeat of the film. Songs like Circle of Life, Hakuna Matata, and Can You Feel the Love Tonight didn't just hit hard, they deepened the story, heightened the emotional stakes, and helped establish the movie's timeless legacy. In the remake, these songs were preserved in name, but their execution felt flat, unable to recapture the magic that made the original soundtrack feel iconic. One of the most glaring missteps was the reimagining of Scar's villainous anthem, Be Prepared. In the original, the song was a theatrical showstopper. Scar's declaration of his sinister ambitions was matched by striking visuals of goose-stepping hyenas and a fiery, ominous atmosphere. Jeremy Irons' performance oozed charisma, malice, and you could just tell he was having a fun time, making the moment both memorable and chilling. In the remake, Be Prepared was reduced to a brief, spoken-word monologue. While Ejiofor gave us the dark, gritty reboot of Scar, the lack of grandeur and musicality stripped the moment of what was once so powerful. Then there was Can You Feel the Love Tonight, a beloved ballad that took place during the day in the remake for some reason. The original scene paired Elton John and Tim Rice's sweeping melody with a visually stunning twilight sequence, and also the word tonight is in the song, using the setting sun to emphasize the romantic connection between Simba and Nala. The remake's decision to stage the song in broad daylight baffled fans, robbing the scene of its intimacy and visual poetry. Overall, the 2019 Lion King soundtrack struggled to strike the right balance between honoring the original and then making meaningful updates. While Hans Zimmer's score and the familiar melodies of Elton John and Tim Rice remained, the soul of the music felt compressed. Reason number 6. A passive protagonist. Simba's journey from carefree cub to noble king lies at the heart of The Lion King. It's a classic coming-of-age story about embracing responsibility, overcoming guilt, and fulfilling your destiny.
And here's my little secret. I killed Mufasa.
No! Murderer!
And here's my little secret. I killed Mufasa.
In the 1994 film, Simba's arc was compelling because it struck the perfect balance between external conflict and internal growth. The remake, however, failed to capture that depth, leaving Simba feeling more like a passive protagonist who was just watching things unfold. Additionally, the remake's narrative structure leaned heavily on external forces driving Simba's decisions rather than his own internal growth. In both versions of the story, Simba's journey is shaped by the advice of others, Mufasa's wisdom, Timon and Pumbaa's carefree philosophy, Nala's call to action. But in the 1994 film, Simba's eventual choice to take responsibility felt like a natural culmination of his personal growth. The remake made Simba's return feel like obligation rather than personal transformation. The result was a protagonist who felt reactive rather than proactive. Simba's role as the central character should have been defined by his journey of self-discovery and redemption, but the remake's lack of emotional nuance and Glover's understated performance left him feeling like a less compelling hero that was just kind of going along with things. Reason number 7. A remake that played it too safe. Perhaps the most significant flaw of the 2019 Lion King was its lack of creative risk. The film adhered so closely to the original structure that it often felt like a shot-for-shot remake rather than a reimagining. While some changes, like Nala's expanded role and Scar's backstory, added depth, they were overshadowed by the film's unwillingness to deviate from its predecessor's structure. Moments that could have been updated or reimagined, like the Circle of Life sequence or Simba's return to Pride Rock, were instead replicated almost exactly, leaving little room for surprise or innovation, which kind of makes you wonder, why did they make this movie? The result was a film that felt redundant. Instead of capturing the magic of the original, the remake served as a reminder of why the original is so good. The 2019 Lion King remake is a visually stunning experiment that ultimately fell short of its potential. By prioritizing realism over emotional resonance, the film lost most of what made the original so special. From lackluster performances to missed opportunities for innovation, the remake serves more as a cautionary tale about the limitations of nostalgia-driven filmmaking. The remake may have been a box office success, but in stripping away the magic, it proved that not every classic needs a second telling. What did you think of The Lion King 2019? Was it a worthy update or a step backward? Which part do you think might have been better than the original, or which part was the biggest disappointment? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to catch more of our cinematic deep dives. This video was made by movie fans, for movie fans.